Hi there. My name is Misha. I'm here with my colleague and friend George Michaelopoulos, and this is Hegemonix. And we're here tonight to discuss um, a strange little outpost in Istanbul called the Fanar, which is doing some things that are not necessarily rational, and we'll lay that out a little bit. But first of all, I just want to explain to people a little bit about what we're talking about the Patriarchate of Constantinople. In our church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Patriarchate of Constantinople is the first among equals, which means essentially that he's the chairman of the board whenever we have a great synod, like a ecumenical council, and he has certain rights of appeals and other things that go along with the seat and with the Patriarchate of Constantinople, the city itself. And so he's not a pope. Um, he doesn't have that immediate, absolute and direct, universal jurisdiction like the Pope in Roman Catholic Church is supposed to have. But to a certain extent, he's the face of the church. If there is a face of the church, I mean, besides Jesus Christ, um, the person who I don't want to say is the head of our church or the leader of our church, but he's the first among equals. Uh, and at this point, we have a situation where he's dabbled a lot into politics, and we'll go into the history of the politics with Constantinople in the program. But he started, with the help of the State Department, a fake church, a um, Orthodox, pseudo Orthodox church, compiled of schismatics from Ukrainian schismatics who'd been excommunicated by the Moscow Patriarchate. And they had before applied to Constantinople, and Constantinople said, no, go home. If anybody can do anything, it's the Moscow Patriarchate. Well, he changed his mind. I assume due to politics, due to the things that have been prepared for Ukraine since the coup d'etat in 2014. And he founded this thing called the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, which originally was supposed to be headed by the
Filaret.
Patriarch Emeritus Filaret
Yeah.
Denisenko. And then he got kind of pushed aside, and there was some intrigue, and there were two other jurisdictions that came together that were schismatic. Many of these people aren't ordained or consecrated in any way,
No.
or a number of them aren't. And so it's a really awful. Did you see the consecration of the Romanian cathedral?
I did, and I was going to point out that when Bartholomew during the Great Entrance read the diptychs of all the primates of all the local churches, when he got to Epiphany, he somebody yelled out Anaxios, I think, or anathema. Anathema
Anathema.
is what they called it.
Anathema.
Yeah.
Yeah, either
So
way,
no, nobody in Romania is fooled there either.
Yeah,
Why
they're
Patriarch Daniel invited him, I have no way of knowing, but uh,
they're pretty savvy over in Romania. Um, and so they're a lot of the church, the vast majority of the church doesn't recognize this thing, the OCU, which is led
okay.
by Metropolitan Epiphany, and I think his name is Dumienko. I'm not sure.
Domenko. By the way, I just saw also where the Metropolitan of Corfu, I believe his name is Nectarios. I can't remember his last name. Uh, made a pilgrimage to Russia and celebrated the liturgy at the St. Peter Paul fortress in St. Petersburg, Petropavlovsk, where all the czars are buried,
Uh-huh.
and also in a couple of other places, um, in at a monastery in Moscow. And he basically, um, you know, talked about how important the ties are between Corfu, his diocese,
Uh-huh.
and Russia. And he named several significant personages. The one that springs to mind instantly is John Capodistrias, who was the first governor of Greece, who had been the
Uh-huh.
foreign minister of Tsar Alexander the First.
Hmm.
Pretty historic figure. There's going to be a movie coming out in December, I think December 25th, about Capodistria called Capodistrias, and
Hmm.
it's a historical epic,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to talk about him and how he became the first governor of Greece. He was assassinated, probably by the British, um, and also he before he went to Greece, he represented the Kremlin or St. Petersburg at the Congress of Vienna in 1815.
Ah,
And
yeah.
he actually drew up the Constitution with his own hand, by the way, of Switzerland, and preserved it from being carved up by the great powers.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
he's a fairly historic figure. Anyway, so the Metropolitan of Corfu, getting back to that, basically just gave the middle finger to Bartholomew by doing this. Not all of the bishops of Greece and Cyprus were on board with the recognition of the OCU. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and in fact, they never voted on it. They just punted it back to their primates, the Archbishop of Athens and the Archbishop of Cyprus of Nicosia, and said, "You
Uh-huh.
make it." Neither man wanted to make a decision, but
Yeah.
they were pressured by the State Department, by the Greek government. Uh, God only knows who else.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a long history with Constantinople and the United States government. I think Truman had, was it
Oh yeah,
Athenagoras,
yeah,
flown back into Constantinople and had him put in place
yep,
after last before him Patriarch
right.
was there. It was like on Air Force One or one of the main,
It was
I don't whatever.
Truman's
And yeah,
official plane. It was called the Sacred Cow. Don't ask me why, but
yeah,
that's what it was
that's
called.
funny.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and then there's a lot of intrigue with the State Department and the CIA,
Mhm.
and the idea that you're talking about Turkey, which is came into NATO, and the whole thing vis-a-vis the Soviet Union. Um, and for a while, there was a lot of um, they found Constantinople fairly useful.
Mhm.
Uh, and then the Cold War ended, and they kind of were in the wilderness for a little while. But he found a way to be, well, he found two ways that I know of to be a lot more current and useful. One
Mhm.
is the Green Patriarch thing, which
Mhm.
he he decided to get fully on board with global warming and the climate change thing, just like John Kerry and
Mhm.
Al Gore, basically. But yeah, he tried to emphasize, I think, recycling more than they would. But still, I mean, it's a big hustle. It's a anti-industrial, anti-capitalist hustle
Yeah.
that doesn't have basis in reality. Which is, I'm glad we don't have a pope
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that would be a reason to doubt his
Yeah.
infallibility. We did, and then this last thing in 2018, he gave them gave the Ukrainian schismatics a tome of autocephaly, which in our church is independence.
Mhm.
Um, we're all in communion, but each of the autocephalous churches are headed by their own hierarch, and they don't. uh, they're not dependent on any other church for their decisions. And now some of them in the Greek orbit are dependent on Constantinople for chrism, I think, Holy Chrism
Yeah,
still.
yeah, they don't have to be, but
Yeah, they don't have, yeah,
I mean, even the OCA makes its own chrism.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, that's, personally, I would have no problem with all the autocephalous churches receiving their chrism from Istanbul. I really wouldn't. I think it'd be a nice gesture. But it's not a hill I'm going to die on. And I'm just as happy with every church making their own chrism if they want to. Some don't,
Right.
some do.
Yeah,
As I said, the OCA makes its own. I believe Moscow makes its own.
yeah.
So, I mean, there comes a time in every person's life when you have to put on your big boy pants and start acting like a man.
Well,
And
they, yeah.
that's it.
And so Moscow did and excommunicated Constantinople because of the
Mhm.
founding of this abomination,
Oh yeah,
or or whatever you want to call it, because it's all Russian territory. There, the Ukraine is
yeah,
and has been for 300 years,
oh
and
yeah.
they kind of weaseled around and said, "Well, it was never formally given completely, totally, 100%." You know.
That's not true. In fact, I wrote a paper about that, which I'm collecting in several essays into a book I'd like to publish. But specifically regarding Ukraine, the all of the diptychs of all of the churches and their protocols, actual pieces of paper,
Mhm.
said Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russia. Even the Church of Greece, even Constantinople.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
in typical weasel word, uh, fanariat fashion, excuse me, they decided to say, well, it was only given in trust for 330
Yeah.
years. Yeah, the Greek word is epitropis, and of course, that's so not true. It's not even funny. I mean, they've actually found letters from patriarchs of Constantinople going back 200 years, which said, "No, you're part of Moscow. That's it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's, and then, Patriarch Bartholomew just said it wasn't that long ago, it was in the '90s maybe or 2000s where this, a similar, I don't know if it's the same exact group, but, part of the group that's now the OCU came to him and said they wanted an autocephalous church or they wanted recognized, and he said, "No, you have to go to Moscow
Yeah,
because
he
that's
did.
your
Right.
church."
And in fact, at the Cretan Robert Council of 2016,
Uh-huh.
um, the you can't find it on the internet now on YouTube, but I did put it on my blog at the time. Father Alexander Karloutzos, who was the spokesman for Bartholomew at the time, still is now. Uh,
Uh-huh.
they asked him about Ukraine and Russia, and he goes, "It's not on the table. Ukraine belongs to Russia. Period. End
Mm.
of story." Of course, what this tells you is that when it comes to the truth, the Phanariats like to play fast and loose with it. I would go, so far as to say they're, God forgive me for saying this, but the liars. They can lie.
Mendacious, yeah. Uh,
And, this kind of mendacity is very, very destructive to the soul, their soul. It's also destructive to the church in general. I mean, this is not a good witness to all the thousands, tens of thousands of Protestants and Catholics who are trying to, look east.
yeah, this is true. Um, so, I think probably, I don't know for sure, but 2014 was the, coup d'état that
Yeah,
the, State Department CIA arranged in
right.
Ukraine. overthrowing Yanukovych, and after that, the Russians knew that there was going to be a war.
Yeah.
They've been building up. They were building up, from that time on. I assume what happened is the State Department got in Bartholomew's ear and put him up to this. And
Oh yeah.
they're who,
There's no doubt about it.
yeah, they're people who've asserted it. Asserted money changed hands. Never have gotten to the bottom of it, but that's entirely possible too. Um, but I don't
I'm
see
going to
why
say
he would
something.
do it necessarily. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say something charitable, or at least try to flesh out the context.
Hmm.
Despite Bartholomew's extreme Russophobia, and I mean irrational fear of the Russians, and probably some antipathy as well.
Hmm.
Uh, I will go out on a limb and say that he really didn't want to do this. He true he was pissed because of what Russia and Bulgaria and Antioch and Georgia didn't do in 2016 when they didn't go to Crete. Okay,
Right.
and he personally that that stuck in his craw, and
Yeah.
I can understand that. I mean, he went to great lengths to plan this. It was supposed to be in 2013. They had to redo it.
Hmm.
And at the very last minute, the Russians pulled the rug out from under him.
Hmm.
Having said that, he probably still wouldn't have done it except for the fact that Pompeo twisted his arm and gave him money.
Yeah.
And um, I'm going to say it. There's blackmail involved.
Hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Hmm.
Whether it was him personally or his coterie around him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's how they do business.
yeah, that's how
The
you do
intelligence,
business.
J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and
Oh yeah,
the most and all of them. Um, yeah. So we had this situation where Moscow, and from Moscow's side, they're not in communion with Constantinople
yeah. For the
or
time
weak,
being, yeah.
kind of, yeah,
I
and
mean,
Athens.
Constantinople could always repent.
Yeah, yeah, that's the hope. And I agree with you. I don't think he had any. I don't think this was his great plan. I think he got kind of cornered into it because it doesn't really help him in his greater plan of trying to get a union together. Um, it alienates other Orthodox from him
Oh yeah,
because only the Greek churches or some of the Greek churches have recognized the OCU,
right.
and so there's the big elephant in the room when
I,
anytime that
I
the Orthodox meet.
I've got some inside skinny. I heard this about two months ago. The new patriarch of Bulgaria, Daniel,
Hmm.
was elected by 3 votes. I mean, 69 to 66 is what I believe is what it was, and he was not the one Bartholomew wanted to be patriarch of Bulgaria. So
Hmm.
when it came time for his elevation to the patriarchal throne, Bartholomew was there as well as a lot of other people, including Domenko, but Domenko was not allowed to serve in the altar. He had to go
Hmm.
stand outside with
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
with the chanters. And
I
then
remember.
after the liturgy was over and they went to the grand banquet, Bartholomew took off and left, and he went back
Hmm.
to Istanbul. So he Bartholomew was upset that Daniel won the Patriarchate of
Yeah.
Bulgaria, and probably because he's not a Russophobe, if I had to guess. And but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Who knows? He just wasn't happy. So 2 months ago, that was last year when Bartholomew
Hmm.
up and left from the banquet. Well, he didn't even attend the banquet. So two months ago, Metropolitan Emmanuel of Chalcedon, um, an interesting character in his own right, shall we say, was sent by Bartholomew to go talk to Patriarch Daniel, and Patriarch Daniel speaks English, as
Mm-hmm.
does Metropolitan Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
But Daniel pretended like he didn't, and so they had to get an interpreter
Mm.
to basically Daniel, you know, basically showed him the door.
Yeah.
And of course, Emmanuel is Bartholomew's number two man, the one
Yeah.
that the word on the street is who will succeed him.
Mm.
That's not, of course, what Archbishop Epiphoros of the GOA wants to hear, but that's what the word on the street is. So
Yeah.
anyway, Bartholomew, by doing what he did, has totally bollocksed up things worldwide,
Mm.
and for no good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we referred to it before, but there was a council in Crete in 2016, and the Russians and the Antiochians and the Georgians, I forget who else,
And
didn't go.
Bulgaria, and
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and the thing that caused a problem and that had a lot of us on edge was, see, this gets into the Bartholomew the ecumenist
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
He had in the proposed minutes or decree or whatever of the council, had referred to other churches, to with like capital C churches, um, and you can't really do that in Orthodoxy,
I know.
um, at least technically when you're trying to speak officially, and you definitely can't do that at an ecumenical council.
Right.
um, and so they were up in arms of that because in January of that year, they'd let the ball drop. The patriarchs let the ball drop, and they went ahead and okayed the agenda, which included this statement, and it couldn't be changed except by unanimity.
Hmm.
And of course, Constantinople wasn't going to change it, and so they found themselves in a kind of a quandary where, what is it? I mean, he's trying to weasel other churches in other, the Roman Catholic Church basically, into the description, and so there was a lot of uh, up in arms stuff about that. Also, and just another thing about Bartholomew, while we're talking about this, as far as I know, there's still a petition I think has been tabled uh, in the Greek Synod by some of the monastics that accuses him of heresy, and they
Oh
have a
yeah.
long list of things that he's done.
Oh yeah.
uh, and so he's a very unstable character in the sense of um, trying to hold down the C, which is the first among equals. Um, they even screw up the language sometimes, and get corrected by their own
Hmm.
monastics. They talk
Oh
about
yeah.
ever life giving da 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 da, and they don't use the right phrases, for stuff. I'm not sure what that all is about. But I don't think. I think Zazoulis is still. No, he's passed away, hasn't he?
He's passed away.
Yeah. He used to be their main theologian, I
Yeah, he
think.
was.
And but it's kind of a mess over there. You have that at the same time, him basically doing the bidding of the State Department,
Hmm.
CIA,
Hmm.
with Ukraine thing, at the same time as you have the sanctions on Russia, which are deindustrializing Europe,
Yeah.
Germany in particular,
Yeah.
and you have the waves of immigrants, uh, the one that started in 2015.
Hmm.
But there are like 30 million immigrants that have come into Europe since then, and all these
Hmm.
different places, mostly in the major cities of these places.
Yeah.
So you got 10% population, sometimes a little bit more, that are Muslim in these places.
Hmm.
Uh, you got all this stuff happening at the same time as we're having a boost in Orthodox conversions to Orthodox Church,
Yeah.
at least in America. And that's why I thought the name for this episode might be Tone Deaf, because
Yeah.
it seems like Bartholomew's pointed in the wrong direction, going against the actual wind of history and change rather
Oh
than
yeah.
with it,
There's
and against, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, no, go ahead.
and against, the canonical teaching of the church as well.
Hmm.
Mm,
He's what I call yesterday's man. He's like a lot of the American administrative state, the
yeah,
European elite. All they know is what they know, and they can't understand um, Orban or Maloney or you know Putin or Trump. They just don't understand it. I mean, it's like uh, they they don't they can't grasp that people don't like globalism, that cosmopolitanism is a dirty word, that it's hollowed out their cities, their manufacturing bases, their middle class, their working class, and
mm,
it's driving young men to despair and suicide, and an increase in homelessness. They don't get it. You see,
yeah,
again, I'm trying to be charitable here. It's
yeah.
like
Tell us what you really think, George. No, that's good. I mean,
yeah, they either they understand it and they're planning it, which means they're evil,
hmm
or they just don't get it. And I know people who don't get it.
hmm
For instance, if you talk to your typical evangelical here in the Bible Belt, you know they they believe in Christian Zionism. I mean,
Yeah,
they will say, "Well, the Jews are God's chosen people," and they don't understand the cognitive dissonance that it takes to believe that if you're a Christian.
right.
Okay, I mean, it takes a lot of cognitive dissonance because it means that
Yeah,
Jesus is a liar. Okay,
right. Yeah,
if there is no dual covenant, that doesn't mean that Jews don't have a role in salvation history. I'm not saying that. Okay,
yeah,
because according to Revelation, a multitude will be brought into the church. You know,
yeah.
so I get that. And there have been Jewish saints and Jewish popes and Jewish patriarchs and bishops throughout the 2,000-year history of Orthodoxy. Um, or
As the
of
Hebrew.
Jewish heritage, I should
Yeah, yeah,
say. Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
So this is not a matter of being anti-Semitic or philo-Semitic or whatever. And again, I'm going far afield. I'm just saying that when you try to explain this to your typical Christian Zionist, they have no frame of reference. They simply don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
More and more are getting it because of the 2-year long war that went on in Gaza, which we actually did see a genocide take place. And
Uh-huh.
so a lot woke up from their stupor. But
Mhm.
my point is this: just as you have Christian Zionists who cannot understand, you also have liberals, especially awfuls, if they're angry white female urban liberals, you know,
Uh-huh.
who really believe that you know your average Trump voter is fashioning chains to lock them into the bedroom and into the kitchen. I mean, they actually believe that, um,
That's what they're told,
and,
yeah.
and they can't understand why my wife voted for Trump. Okay, you know,
Yeah.
so when it comes to the the globalist elites, that's all they know. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the impression that I've gotten, is that a lot of these people are just too behind the times, and
yeah,
too what is it they say, set in their ways.
Yeah.
We used to say about older people.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily anything that's intrinsic at being old, but a lot of people who have done things the same way for
Yeah.
their entire lives and have had that habit of thought
Right.
of this, that for their entire lives. Um,
Yeah.
breaking that is it takes a it takes a Damascus Road moment basically
Yeah, it does.
to
It it
away from
it
that.
it it does. I mean, I was for the Iraq War. I thought
Yeah.
I was told there was weapons of mass destruction. I
Yeah.
remember the 90s after the fall of the Soviet Union, it looked like I ascribed to Francis Fukuyama's philosophy that we're at the end of history.
Yeah.
And going forward, it's going to be democratic liberalism. I should have listened to Pat Buchanan. Okay.
Mhm. We all should.
Um,
Yeah.
but I thought, yeah, it makes sense. And, yeah, Saddam has got weapons of mass destruction and he's a dictator. And the people in Iraq will welcome us as liberators. And they'll be going to McDonald's and, reading the Atlantic and, Starbucks would be opening up all over Iraq, and it would just be wonderful. Well, that didn't happen. Again,
Mhm.
because my frame of reference was the Cold War, that the Soviet Union was evil and that they were 10 feet tall. And
Mhm.
when they fell, and it looked like the whole world was becoming democratic, I thought, well, okay, fine. It took me several years to realize that there is no end of history, that people are
Yeah.
tribal, they're religious, and, they don't necessarily agree with liberal democratic values. And back then, we were not globo homo. Now it's like horrible,
Yeah. Hit deep
and
in it. Yeah.
men riding around naked on bicycles saying we're coming for your children, you know? So,
Yeah. This is by far a low point for humanity with the way
yeah,
that the society has gone.
yeah.
I mean, if you look back um, before, well, they talk about a Schofield Bible and all this stuff being the
Oh, yeah.
influence of the Christian Zionists came about, but before, say World War II,
Uh,
uh, if you went, if you talk to anybody in Protestant Christianity, they're not going to have at that time a favorable impression of the Jews. It
right,
just it
right.
wasn't something that's in their worldview. And then all the narrative about the Holocaust built
Yeah.
up in the movies and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and
Uh-huh.
then suddenly it becomes like the Jews are these delicate snowflakes that we have to protect at all costs.
Mhm.
And they're holy somehow, despite the fact that they reject the God Man,
Right.
uh, which is something that the earlier Christians could never, have fathomed, and
Mm.
we as the Orthodox can't fathom. It's just an
Right.
obvious thing.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean that it shakes off. It takes a lot to shake off that programming, whether it's the Christian Zionism or the cosmopolitanism of the Fanar,
Mhm.
where they've been doing things the same way, for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what they actually believe in when it comes down to what God is. If they believe in the God of the creeds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they think that they believe in Hellenism, and that's it. Um, it's hard to say, but I doubt that. I think there are a lot of them, even Bartholomew, who has some. Man, I'm saying this as a convert. It's really bold, audacious. I probably shouldn't say it.
Go ahead.
But like even Bartholomew has a faith in God and some faith in in Orthodoxy or Greek Orthodoxy, as he would probably call it. Because why would you spend your life that way if you didn't? I mean, you were born into the religion
Hmm.
but you weren't born into monastic robes.
Hmm.
You weren't born into the hierarchy. You went into it for a reason, and it's to me the main reason wouldn't necessarily be power or money or
Hmm.
anything like that. It would be I love God and I want to do something in
Well,
that area.
there is such a thing as being the big fish in the little pond.
Mm,
You know, when you're talking about the Greeks of Istanbul, at one time Istanbul was a predominantly Greek city, or a significantly Greek city, even after, you know, the fall of Constantinople.
mm,
But ever since the catastrophe of 1922, in which there was an exchange of populations, it went from maybe having 500,000 Greeks to maybe 50,000, and then down to 2,000 now.
yeah.
And as far as the actual patriarchate, I think the Dodecanese Islands are part of its patriarchate, as well as the two islands, Imbros and Tenedos, which are just off the coast of Turkey. And Bartholomew is from Imbros, as my mother's ancestry is as well. Uh,
Mm,
the the previous patriarch Demetrios, who was seemed to be a prayerful and holy man, was also from there.
mm,
Um, and that is because you have to be a Turkish citizen. Well,
mhm,
you're talking about, you know, there is no cream of the crop. I mean, and it's especially on that island. There's just maybe 100 Greeks left there. I don't know. I'll have to ask
mm,
my baby sister. She just went and visited. Um,
mhm.
the um, you know, and let's say you're kind of a effete young man, and you know you don't there's a you are of Greek blood, so you're going to be second class citizen if you stay in Turkey.
Mm,
uh what options do you have? Let me
mm,
see.
yeah,
And well, there's the church, you
yeah,
know, and it doesn't take much to be a priest, and certainly
mm,
doesn't take much to be a bishop in Istanbul, okay, in
yeah,
that patriarchate. Now I'm not talking about Australia, the United States, Canada,
mm,
uh, where they're also as part of the Patriarchate of Constantinople. I'm not talking about that. There it's a little bit more rough and tumble, and you have to actually have some kind of moxie to 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 make it, because you actually have real parishes and you have real dioceses. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
in Istanbul per se, in Turkey, okay, you're a metropolitan of a mountain, of an extinct mountaintop called Ephesus, or an extinct valley called Laodicea.
yeah,
So you're the metropolitan, but you know, of a couple of sheep and goats. You know, there's
yeah.
no Orthodox
It's kind
Christians
of like
there anymore. So
yeah,
you're not going to send your A team, and
mm,
and and all you really have is a B team. You see.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's certainly the
I
way that.
suppose it was somewhat the same during the Soviet Union, when their average bishop was a KGB agent.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing actually reminds me, both in the upper hierarchy of the Greek Church and in our government, and in Western Europe. It does remind me not of the KGB Church, the
Hmm.
Soviet Church, but of the Soviet leadership towards the end.
Hmm.
Uh, when they
Oh yeah.
were before Gorbachev, when they were so old that they're making jokes about and drop off, and this one dropped off, and this one, and on, because they were, you had these guys in their 70s and their 80s, and they were dying left and right. Um, and then you had the change, and I wonder sometimes with we just have a lot of people who need to retire.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's our main problem
Yeah.
that we have. They're
Oh,
hanging
and
on to their last breath and
I
gonna
know.
claw. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's I, I mean, I'm not going to say that Bartholomew is not without his gifts,
Mhm,
He is multilingual, is very intelligent. Um,
mhm.
uh, he did one good thing that I can think of, as far as a grand vision, and that's to set up these Episcopal assemblies. Of course, he didn't do it by himself. He
Yeah,
spearheaded it. All the patriarchs had to agree to that. Okay,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
you know, you take that for what it's worth. It's a good thing overall.
yeah.
Whether
I
it accomplishes its stated purpose, that's to be seen. But everything else has been wiped out by what he did in Ukraine. I mean,
yeah,
you know, what good was here? Here was good, but then all of a sudden Ukraine outweighed it. And, you
yeah.
know,
Well, the good news is he's gonna lose,
yeah.
and the OCU is gonna lose, and there's not gonna
Mhm,
be probably anything much left of it at
mhm,
the end of this, and so hopefully the problem will solve itself,
mhm,
um, and then, when the next patriarch, ascends in Constantinople,
mhm,
then there'll be at least a chance to do something different. I
mhm,
mean, I look at it a little bit, optimistically. I have to, being a Christian, obviously.
mhm,
Um, but, you got the Trump, the MAGA thing going on
mhm.
here, and it's taking over the government slowly,
It is.
excruciatingly slowly from my
Yeah.
perspective, they are making headway,
Mhm,
and they're gonna displace this establishment.
mhm,
I'm If they don't displace it, then I mean, they know, just like Cortez, when he burned his boats,
mhm.
uh, they don't have any choice. They gotta,
Yeah, yeah,
displace.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's you know, when I love it when my normie friends say, "Well, we can't be too brutal. We can't be brutal because when they get back in power, they're going to be brutal to us." I said, "They've already been brutal to us. Do you not remember what Lois Leonard did with the IRS, or when Biden drone strike of innocent civilians, and when they went after the Tea Party and they put Jamie Rosen in prison, or or Biden surveilled more journalists than all previous presidents combined, and then Biden and what he did with the J6ers, and I mean you can just go on and on and on, and you know, both Biden and Obama let our cities burn, you know,
Yeah.
and destroyed so much capital from normal people. I mean,
Mm.
it's already been done, you know. Um, so we don't have to be reticent anymore. Uh, does it mean we're going to win in the end? No, probably not. Maybe, maybe not. But you can't not fight. I mean, because
Right.
they're not going to be merciful if they ever get back in power. They're just not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I think when they put this guy, Crash Dummy, in the presidency,
Mhm,
and they tried their best to, after Trump's first term and after they had to do the whole Steele thing in order to get
mhm,
him out of office, I'm sure they knew that their mission in life was to displace the Republican Party
mhm,
and keep the Republicans out of government
mhm,
indefinitely.
mhm,
That was what they were totally dedicated to. That's
mhm.
J6. That's going after the Catholics, going after the
Oh
parents
yeah.
and students. You know, uh, just everything that they were about was to intimidate everybody
Mhm.
and to put as many people in prison. Everybody around Trump, was supposed to
Oh
go to
yeah.
prison,
Oh
and
yeah.
he himself was supposed to go, and all this stuff.
I mean, my
They
God, they went through
tried as hard as
Melania's
they could.
underwear drawer. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean, we never in our entire history ever went after the other political party like that. You know,
yeah,
an ex-president immune. Period.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
Nixon. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah. That's
so
true.
so the normies on our side have just got to wake up and realize that no, there's a big fat target. It's over you. And
Yeah.
it's not just Trump. Trump's just standing in the way. That that's it.
Right. Right. I mean, they tried their best, their very
Yeah,
best, in order to
they did.
establish a democratic one-party state,
Mm.
and it's insanity to give them a second chance.
Oh yeah.
It really
Oh yeah.
is, and I think they understand that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at least
Yeah. I
at least what do they call it, critical mass.
Yeah, right.
When
Yeah. Well, I just read today that Joe Manchin came out and admitted that even though he was a loyal Democrat, but because he was not a Kool-Aid drinker, they went after him, the Democrats, and they threatened him. And he said he received so many physical threats on his person and on his family that he had to get um, um, uh, eg, extra security. And that's
Mhm.
ultimately, well, he's trying to say that's why he didn't run again, but he would have lost in West Virginia, although he was
Yeah.
fairly popular and at one time, and and he was and he held the balance of power in his hand for about 4 years. But what he says right now that they came out after him and threatened him. I think you should take that to the State Department. I mean, to the Department of Justice and say, "Can you open up a case here? Because this is not something that's supposed to be done to me. I mean, this is Soviet tactics."
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, that just goes to show you that the Democrats they play hardball,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And if Cash and, Pam ever get around to it, which I think they will, hopefully we'll see a lot of prosecutions
yeah,
in this coming year. They've got grand juries set to
yeah,
convene in the coming year. But so you're gonna have all that stuff happening here, and you have what you have in, Western Europe with, the AfD, National Front,
mm,
Reform, and, other people there. And so, I would think at some point it's gonna filter through even to Constantinople, probably not under this patriarch, but maybe the next one,
mm,
that they need to relook at their loyalties and intentions and
mm,
everything,
mm.
because, the it's gonna be Ukraine's gonna be a failed experiment,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, and, so I don't know, you pray for them. You never know what's gonna happen next, so, so do you think we pretty much, gotten it for
yeah.
this
May
episode?
may
You
it
have anything else you wanna
Well,
add to
yeah, I do, but I think it's going to take another hour, and I don't want to do that. But maybe another episode, talk about
Mhm.
specifically about conversions here in America. The orthobro phenomenon and uh,
Yeah.
the Catholics seeming to cry in their beer about Leo. He seems to be turning into another Frankie. Uh, we got things to talk about here too, but you know.
Well, that's part of the kind of current events that it seems like, um, the patriarchate is swimming against the
Mhm,
flow of the water.
mhm.
Because right now, I think it was like a 78% increase, uh, in 22 and
Yeah.
23, conversions to the Orthodox Church over what it was
Mhm,
pre-COVID.
mhm.
And a lot of it's Protestant, a lot of it's men, but it's not all Protestant, and it's certainly not all men.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, in fact, you are seeing more single women now come in. It's still predominantly mostly men, so single men.
Mhm.
Actually, predominantly, you're seeing young families, hus
Yeah,
husband, wife, 4 kids.
yeah,
Main.
and it's the
Mhm.
main range, the 30 to 39, which is when
Yeah,
people start
yeah,
returning off
yeah,
um,
exactly.
into the family. Yeah, we probably ought to do an entire show
Yeah,
about that, at
yeah,
some point.
yeah.
Uh, so, you have anything else you wanna add at this
Well,
point?
yeah, word on the street. is, and I can't prove it. I mean, but I am
Mm.
getting it literally from the street. That November 30th is the feast day of Saint Andrew,
Yes.
and Pope Leo is going to be in Istanbul, and they're
Ah,
going to celebrate the patronal feast day of Saint Andrew, the patron saint of um,
Constant.
Constantinople,
Yeah, yeah.
and that gosh, I might as well just say it. They're going to announce a union between the Orthodox and the Catholic churches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm hearing.
Well, we'll see. I
We'll
mean,
see.
hope not. But, we all knew it was coming. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not made any secret of it, and he's
Mm,
in some of the documents, some of the, um, metropolitans, issued around the Creed Council, they
mm,
made it clear that there was just they didn't even think that there was a schism, that it was just an absence of
mm,
communion,
mhm,
Akoinonia, and so, yeah, we all knew it was coming, so,
mhm.
well, that's another reason to pray, so,
Yeah, 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 it
alright,
is.
well, if you, like what you saw and heard here, please, hit like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode of Hegemonix.
Goodbye.